get started.
Okay.
Episode 2.
I think we're recording. Let me double check. I think we're good to go. We're recording the second episode today.
2 for 1.
Two
feeling
episodes in one day.
ambitious.
Yeah, we're feeling very ambitious. Yasmin is a little upset because why are you upset?
I'm upset because Ahmed is making broth, which is a really wonderful thing for a husband to do. It's amazing bone broth. But there are all these fatty bones, and I wanted to eat some of the fat.
Yeah, you wanted to eat the gristle off the pan.
It looks so beautiful. And I thought he was going to come back here and give me a tablespoon, but he put them all into the soup.
Yeah. A foundational part that you're forgetting is that I earlier made you your own marrow bone. I roasted it just for you and put it on fresh sourdough bread.
That was beautiful. It was
so
very
that
delicious.
You wouldn't do the exact thing that you're doing right now.
But I think you were doing that just because I wanted to eat that.
No.
Every time you make soup that I'm home, I think I need a little fat.
Well, you ate a little bit of the fat.
I
and
did.
Then you also wanted to eat like the gristle off the pan, which I need to deglaze in order to give the broth like another dimension of flavor and some nice color. And I wouldn't give you any.
I think the good karma that you get from giving your wife that would help to flavor the broth.
I don't think so. I think the deglazed gristle and
is the main
fat
component.
Is probably the
bone broth is amazing though. It's really jiggly. It's so much better than the bone broth that you buy at a store. I'm completely spoiled. I would never buy bone broth again.
Yeah, we've been drinking it kind of in the morning and at night too. I'm actually drinking some right now.
Yeah.
And folks, if you're near a butcher or like a good grocery store that has soup bones, just get some. It's really easy to make. And I like to just throw a little star anise, some like peppercorns, and what else? Some cloves. And it's.
Do you do turmeric?
I do a little bit of turmeric in it as well.
It's a nice color also.
Yeah.
And now Ahmed has a really cute bromance with our local butcher. So that can become a part of your life too, Todd. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was an awkward moment. I'm going to just kind of put you on the spot here where we didn't know Todd's name.
We forgot his name.
But Ahmed had known him for too long for us to ask. But we got there eventually. We figured out Todd's name. And he saves you special bones, right?
He does save me special bones sometimes. And sometimes I'll go in and I guess they're like taste testing different meats that they get. Mm-hmm. And so he's like grilled a few steak slices, and if I'm there, he'll slide me a few delicious steak slices. So shout out to Todd. Mm-hmm. He's a real great guy, good butcher. All right.
If we could be sponsored by a butcher one day, that would be a dream.
That would be great. Yeah. I feel like the next trend of things is kind of like this bone broth, because like a lot of more people are getting into gut health stuff. Mm-hmm. I think that's like the new frontier of just diet fads and wellness and stuff.
We're going to talk about wellness today. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, actually, I feel like bones are probably about to get a lot more expensive, like good quality bones. I actually had an idea to open up if I had the capital, I would just kind of buy up bones and have a very fancy, modern, unbranded bone store.
Just bones. That's it.
Just bones.
Wow.
And I think that would probably make a shitload of money in like Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Probably.
Yeah.
My
just
dad
Harvard
always
Square.
said that he wanted to do like a halal butcher kind of situation.
Yeah.
And like sell to Muslims, specifically like organic meat. Yeah. And really price it up.
Yeah, these Muslims, they have too much disposable income.
Yeah, he never went there.
Yeah. So this is a pretty good sort of segue into the first thing that I have for you. Mm-hmm. So I think we talked about wanting to talk to each other about our weird internet obsessions.
Yes.
So I'm going to throw one at you, and I think you know that I followed this guy for a while. And kind of like just like I don't know why I'm so fascinated by him, but I am.
We're staying with the meat theme.
Staying with the meat theme. I'm talking about Liver King. For those who don't know, Liver King is this TikTok character who, do you want to try to describe him or should I?
No, you should describe him.
Okay. He's very lumpy, very muscular guy, beard, and it kind of looks like a cloud. Immediately you see him and you're like, this man is roided out of his mind.
It's the kind of look where like the muscles do not look like they're naturally there. They look
Right.
kind of cartoonish.
It looks like his flesh is stretching his skin very thin and about to just like look. He's like a very plump grape. If you just poke him with like a needle or something, you just like rip apart. So he preaches the 9 ancestral tenets, and these are values by which everyone should live. I don't know all 9 ancestral tenets.
You're not a very good follower.
But the idea is that you are very in tune with your body and nature. You get a lot of sun, and you are returning to this sort of, and I'm doing air quotes here, like primitive way of being, which you could probably write a paper about the connotations and where these ideas come from, especially for like a white guy whose real name is like, I think is like Brian Johnson. And he has like videos of him, I think in Tanzania with like Hadza people, which just on a tangent, there have been like Harvard doctors and researchers and stuff who like go with them and who are also studying gut health, and in kind of weird, unethical ways, they're like taking the gut biome or samples of it from like fecal matter, of these people, and they're just like, we're going to figure out their gut microbiome and use it to make medicine that rich people are going to buy anyway. So this guy, he deems things as primal and subprimal.
Just that binary.
That's the binary of good and bad. It's primal or subprimal. Yeah.
Wait, I'm going to interject here real fast. It's so interesting. I feel like maybe 5 years ago, there was a huge internet trend of like raw vegans.
Yeah.
And they were all women.
Yeah.
And there were these really skinny little white women who only ate like vegetables and fruit. Like allegedly that was it.
Yeah.
And they would dehydrate things for hours so they could say that it wasn't cooked. And then it was okay to eat it. But it would take like, 10 hours to make like chips out of plantains.
Yeah.
And I think it's weird. I feel like the algorithms are like women are supposed to eat vegetables and fruit only.
Yeah, you want to disappear.
Yeah, and then men are supposed to eat just
and
meat,
this guy
which seems
is just
like terrible for like your digestion. Like, can you imagine eating just meat and trying to go to the bathroom? I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But it feels like...
I think it's funny to be saying this while our entire apartment currently smells like meat because I'm making a bone broth. But yes,
true.
I agree with you.
We do like meat, but yeah, it's very gendered. It's very much like women should be eating just fruit and vegetables and men should be eating just meat. And I feel like if you watch like too many YouTube videos, you get stuck in these extremes. That's all that you can see is like really extreme diets.
Yeah, I think the ideal couple would be
a raw vegan,
just wayfish woman who's barely getting any macronutrients and very malnourished, and then guy who just constantly has the meat sweats and looks like a balloon.
Yeah, I think you're right. I used to follow for years this woman named Fully Raw Christina, who claimed that her eyes changed color because she ate enough cucumbers. She had some interesting insights. That wasn't one of them, but
okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to play for you a couple videos of Liver King, and hopefully this actually records properly, and then we can do this without making too much noise on the track here. But all right, so this is Liver King.
And just photos just popped up for a second.
Yeah.
Some selfies
yeah.
that unfortunately you cannot see.
Yeah, on his TikTok page. So just to kind of set up the clip, this is Liver King at what seems to be like a state fair. And he's walking around the different food stalls.
All right, it's my first time seeing this.
Okay.
We got pizza, subprimal, unless you get meat on top of meat, partially primal. We got veggie tofu, subprimal.
This man's walking around without a shirt on.
Subprimal, the epitome, the king of subprimal, right here.
His face also just looks like
we got some Japanese ramen,
like clearly
partially primal. I see some meat on the outside. If that's tofu, subprimal. Look at this. Maine lobsters. primal.
Oh wow, that's
see what's
okay.
next.
That's good.
We got fruits, partially primal. If it's juice, subprimal.
I love that he's doing this
We
while
got monks, vegan,
people are
smokehouse.
like stuffing their faces with like funnel cake, and he's just like pointing directly at them and yelling. And this, by the way, this guy is completely shirtless always, and just kind of, you could tell he's kind of like a short king, and he's just like going up to people, pointing directly in their faces and yelling subprimal.
Is there a part of you that wants to run around eating just meat and screaming primal?
I think so. Yeah, because his whole thing is all about, he says he just wants people to express their highest, most dominant form. And as I'm saying this, I'm just like, damn, I'm way too deep in the Liver King lore. Like more than I thought I was.
Yeah, you've got a lot of background.
You didn't. And the other thing that he does, I didn't queue up a clip for this, but he'll be like sitting next to his wife, who looks like she's being held hostage constantly.
And she never talks, right?
She never
is
talks.
always
No,
quiet.
absolutely.
And she's this kind of blonde woman. I've seen a couple of Liver King
Honestly, maybe
clips.
one of your wayfish sort of, malnourished. She looks actually pretty nourished. I think she...
Just it's not very vocal.
I'm not really sure what she eats. Allegedly, she eats the same diet he does. And his sons do as well. But she absolutely looks like dead behind the eyes, and like she's not there of her own volition. But every night he'll post a video just showing like, this is what Liver King's having for dinner tonight. Right. And he'll, point to like, he eats raw liver, he eats raw testicle, like a lot of raw organs, obviously.
There's been backlash though, right? I mean, it came out that he was on steroids, which, shocker.
Well, that was the spoiler.
Nice. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, so that did happen. But just kind of quickly back to his dinner is that he allegedly eats it, but he never shows himself eating any raw organs. Like, I've never seen a video of this man eating a raw testicle, but he like swears by it. I could be wrong. There could be a video out there of him eating raw testicle, but I haven't seen it. He also says, his salad is comprised of pork rinds and maple syrup. And he says, why eat vegetable when you could eat testicle? What do you think about that?
I don't have any thoughts about that. That sounds gross.
You don't have any thoughts?
No.
No?
I mean,
would you like me to make testicle salad?
I would not have a testicle salad. Mm-hmm. I would try a testicle. I never have.
Raw?
No, not raw. But I mean, I'm not against
like
I enjoy
thinking?
meat organs. I enjoy liver.
Yeah.
I don't love pate as much as I thought I did, but I don't think it's bad to like use up all the pieces of an animal. But that glaze sounds disgusting.
Yeah.
Maybe
Hold
a
on.
cow.
Oh,
it sounds like the soup is about to overflow.
The soup is overboiling. I'll be right back.
I've been doing my thing. Take my shirt off and the girls go insane. Fold diamond rings, 2 big ass chains. Eat that watch too. I got the cash like chain.
Okay, I think we're back. I'm not really sure if this is... I think so.
Is the soup safe?
Yeah, the soup is good. Okay, so where were we with Liver King?
You're asking if I would eat an animal's testicles?
Yes, and you would.
I think I would, just to say that I've tried it. I would try almost anything once.
But this isn't like a dietary change you're trying to make permanently.
No, I'm not trying to survive just off of testicles.
Because I don't know if Todd's got the testes.
He hasn't shown us any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly not me. Okay. Well, I wanted to play a little game with you.
Okay.
So now that we know the primal subprimal binary, Liver King's
wait, real
measure
quick,
of
what would be like if we were to have it in between? What would be an in between primal and subprimal? A deep fried vegetable, maybe an oyster.
Oh, you mean like an example of something that is neither primal nor subprimal?
Like what about seafood? Does he eat seafood? Is that a meat?
Seafood's a meat, but he's never eaten it.
Okay. Anyway.
I've never seen him eat it.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to ask Liver King. And if we blow up enough, maybe I'll get the chance.
Maybe we'll get to interview him.
Maybe we could have him on as a guest. The thing that I hear also is that people who have had him on their podcasts always remark on his smell.
Oh my goodness. Is it that strong?
Because he does not shower.
He doesn't shower?
His body is at a perfect homeostasis in which it is self-regulatory according to him.
That's why his wife looks dead.
He doesn't need to shower, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because he's cultivating a nice bacterial sort of glaze.
Eating just meat and not showering is a potent combination. That's crazy.
But his body self-regulates. That's the thing you're forgetting is if you were like a subprimal male, you probably need to shower.
But if you're a primal male, you just kind of naturally sweat out all the testicles that you've eaten and you just smell perfect.
I don't know if you stop showering to become primal or you become primal and then you stop showering.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, I would also have to ask him about that. Yeah, so he does not shower, and also apparently when he goes to the bathroom, he doesn't need to wipe because
you're joking.
Yeah,
that's for real.
His feces just comes out so solid and perfect that it
Ahmed,
can just
you're way too deep in this that you know about this man's feces.
He's like, oh yeah, I don't need to,
I knew that this was an interest of yours, but this is a level of detail I was not aware that you were familiar with.
Yeah, and this, I gotta say, for me is like, I could never be that primal because I love having a bidet.
We have a very nice bidet, which you were very invested in. Yes.
It's not that nice. I would love a nicer one. I would love one of the actually nice Japanese ones.
This seems like a perfectly nice one. We also have like
this
a little.
Is so subprimal of me.
We also have like a little like wooden squat thing that we have, like a stool. We've got quite an elaborate bathroom set up. If you're ever in our bathroom, you'll have a really comfortable time.
But I think it could be better.
I think we're good.
Okay. All right. So yeah, are you ready for this game?
Yeah,
Primal
I'm
or
ready.
subprimal? I'm gonna ask you. I kind of just was thinking about like what our daily routines are like. And
so this is subprimal or primal according to me, right? Not according to Liver King, but using his language.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
And then I'll kind of maybe come at you with what Liver King would say because I think I know pretty well.
I think you do too. If you know his feces, you know what his take would be.
Yeah. So your alarm going off 7 times in the morning.
I think primal.
Okay,
Yeah.
explanation.
So I think that's primal because I'm activating my husband's nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting him ready to respond to the world.
Interesting.
And if not me, who? You know, it's my job, I think.
You're priming my
I'm priming
sort of
you,
predatory
right,
senses
to kind of like be alert in the world. If it was just one alarm, you wouldn't be really primed for a danger.
But you need to
3
constantly
alarms,
be just jolted.
3 alarms lets you know that your sleep is not protected.
Yeah.
That anyone could be coming at any moment.
Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's okay. So I think Liver King would have said that's not very primal. In fact, it is subprimal because one of the 9 ancestral tenets is stacking the sun and the earth.
Stacking the sun and the earth.
Right. Like, you have people have like a nutrition or vitamin stack.
Okay.
He stacks the sun and the earth. So you need to be in tune with the natural sort of patterns of night and day.
You're too far in. You got to break us down for us. So he's not personally stacking the sun.
No. Stacking as in he's like going and being outside and touching the ground.
Oh, okay.
And,
like he's getting vitamin D.
And getting vitamin D and being in the sun, and he's shirtless.
So you should just wake up naturally, essentially, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think if you were a perfectly primal, regulated person, you would.
You know what? I'll give that one to Liver King. I think that if we lived in a better world, and we didn't have to get up for work, and we just woke up with our natural body's rhythms, that would be more primal.
I like your explanation of it priming your hunting instincts. To be honest. Yeah. Okay. Eating breakfast.
Primal.
Okay. I think depending on the breakfast, there's a little bit of room for wiggle room here.
Right, but I'm sure Liver King still eats in the morning, right?
I bet he doesn't. I'm not really sure on this one, but I wouldn't doubt it if he fasted throughout the day.
He's probably so full from the testicles that he doesn't get.
He's probably
hungry
filled with
until
testicle.
like 3 p.m.
Yeah, from the night before. So I think eating breakfast is interesting, but we've been drinking a lot of broth.
That's true.
That's very primal.
We've been having more like meat products than normal at breakfast.
Yeah, I think that's primal. Okay, showering.
I guess subprimal.
You are on record saying showering is subprimal.
I mean, I'm just starting to think like Liver King, and it sounds like, I mean, I guess I'm not any more ready for danger when I shower.
Yeah.
Just trying to be one with the workforce,
I will say this. I've been taking cold showers recently.
Really?
And something Liver King does is he does like the ice bath plunges.
So he'll do that, but he won't shower.
He won't shower.
Okay.
Yeah. But the ice bath apparently somehow primal, even though
There actually
I don't think there was ice in quote primitive culture.
But there were cold lakes people would jump into.
Sure. I'm thinking of like African tribes, which is generally I think where he goes. But yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I remember when I was like in Sweden, I went in a really, really cold lake and everyone was like, oh, this will shock you alive. Like it's good for you.
Yeah.
I tried the cold bath thing, but I couldn't get into it. But I've heard there's some science behind it. I think that it helps with anxiety and it can kind of be helpful for emotional state regulation. I'm not sure if that's why Liver King is doing it, but there's some thought that it could be helpful.
Yeah.
I can't get myself
I'm surprised
to do it, though. I take
You're half Swedish.
I am, but I love swimming in the ocean. Like I love being in cold water that's natural, but when I'm taking a bath, I want it to be really hot, or even a shower, I want it to be super warm and comfy.
You've been talking also about doing a polar plunge.
I really want to do a polar plunge.
Then I feel like a couple of hours later, it's 45, 50 degrees here, and you're like, that's too cold.
I've been in North Carolina for 5 years, and I'm so sensitive to the cold now. I mean, I've lived in Boston and Wisconsin. I'm from New York. I used to be way better with cold weather, but no, I still want to do a polar plunge because I just want to feel that like shock to my system.
Yeah.
I just want to have that experience once, but I don't want it to be part of my daily routine.
Well, do you want to start by maybe trying to just like turn the dial over to cold in
just
the shower?
Jump in.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we have showering. You said that was primal. Oh, sorry, subprimal. You think it's subprimal. Okay. Feeling anxious about your workday.
Subprimal for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in a primal world, we would not be working desk jobs.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. I think Liver King would as well. Okay. Going to the bathroom.
Primal.
Going
I think
to the
digestion
bathroom
is part of, basic body function. I think Liver King would agree.
I don't know how Liver King goes to the bathroom. I don't know if he uses a toilet.
You don't think he uses a toilet?
I don't know. I'm saying I don't know if he uses a toilet. But I imagine a toilet, the Western toilet, is very subprimal because you're not at a good angle for pooping.
That's why we've got our little
you flush
step
it.
Stool.
I feel like flushing is subprimal.
Using water, definitely primal to help the process. I'm not always good about it, but
what do you mean?
Like using a bidet or using a lota.
You think that's primal?
Yeah, I think that's better, right? To kind of keep things clean.
No, I think the fact that you have to clean after is subprimal.
I think that everyone should clean after, even
no,
if it's
I think if you're primal, if you're primal, it just launches out with such a velocity
that it leaves no residue behind. It's completely a clean cut.
Yeah, it comes out like a bullet, just fully formed, self-contained, and it's just like a pod you can bury in the ground, and that's it.
You can't see the face that I'm making, but it's not a positive one.
That's how I imagine. I mean, that to me seems like the most primal path. Okay. We disagree on that one. Social media.
That's tricky because Liver King makes his whole living off of social media. I think primal.
He has talked about this.
I think primal because
I know the hadith on.
You know that.
I have the hadith on Liver Kings.
Well, let me give my take, and then
it's not one of the 9 ancestral tenets.
One, but there's
hadith.
He's spoken on it.
Yeah.
I think social media taps into all of our worst human impulses and our best ones, so it's pretty primal. It's like a new technology, but it's an old way of getting excited and feeling left out and creating buzz and all that.
Yeah.
What's Liver King's take?
Liver King's take is that it is primal if it is serving a primal end. Oh. So if you're using it only to further the furthering like the proclamation of the 9 ancestral tenets, which is the only thing that he uses social media for, according to him, and the only thing that he uses his fleet of luxury vehicles and his private jet for, then those luxuries are primal. But if they start to become ends unto themselves, then they are no longer primal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like people who use technology to proselytize, and they're like, well, I'm using it for a religious reason. I'm not just getting on here and talking about anything.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. It's like all those like new sort of like Instagram imams.
Right.
But once you start using Instagram to DM your second and third wife,
then it's not okay. Depends
good.
on, I guess, your feelings on second or third wives, but
yeah, generally bad if your first wife doesn't know.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, writing a dissertation.
Subprimal.
Subprimal.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I think the anxiety that comes with writing, you know, something that's 200 pages
Yeah.
is not at all primal.
Not primal.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't disagree with that because I'm not writing one.
You are editing one, though.
I am editing one, which
in a lot of detail. So there's that.
I gotta say also feels subprimal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sleeping.
Primal.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. You gotta sleep. It's important for your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he would probably agree with that. All right, that's what I got for primal, subprimal.
That was such a cute overview of our day. Also, I like it.
Yeah.
Or kind of my day, I guess. But
yeah.
Yeah.
I had going to the gym, but I think we would all agree that that's primal.
It depends. If you're just working out to like look attractive and not like, you know, to really build your body to be able to respond to danger.
Right.
Yeah.
Or to create danger.
Or to create danger.
Yeah.
Right. Because I feel like a lot of gym workouts are just about the aesthetics.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Not about
and we know
mobility.
Liver King is definitely not about the aesthetics.
Right.
Just
right.
look at him.
Yeah. Do you think Liver King even goes to the gym?
Oh, yeah. I think he actually does work out like a madman.
Really?
Like, I think he
in addition to the steroids.
He works out very hard in addition to the steroids.
Got it.
A shitload of steroids.
Yeah.
Just a mind-boggling amount of steroids, I'm sure.
Liver King is extreme, but I wonder how many male actors are on steroids. Probably a lot more than we'd guess.
Yeah, I think recently I found that I do think it's a lot because I went through a period of time where I was really working out more for aesthetics. And, you know, I've got like a pretty small frame and it's like very hard for me to gain weight and muscle. And I would like be like, oh, how do I look like this guy? How do I look like that guy? And the more research I've done, I found out it's like these people are seeing doctors who are able to do like get their hormones in order. They're doing steroids. They're going to see the right
the key
sorts
thing
of
is the
trainers.
steroids. Yeah, I mean,
It's
absolutely,
wild.
they have trainers and they have doctors, but
Personal
I think it's
chefs.
just, you need drugs for a certain level of
Yeah.
yeah.
To look like that on camera. It's insane.
It looks good on camera, but I just think in real life it looks a little cartoonish. It's not my thing, but
Yeah. And yes, you're right. You said earlier, right? Like it came out, you know, for the longest time he was talking about how he's just does this through the 9 ancestral tenets. And that's why he looks like that. And that's why he, you know, cannot wear clothes and shower and whatever. And everyone, the community, the Liver King community was reeling from the shock when it came out that our leader, Brian Johnson, aka Liver King, was actually doing steroids this whole time.
who was the whistleblower?
Some other random YouTuber, I think. I can't remember his name. I think he goes by like More Plates, More Dates or something, and he came out with this.
Devastating.
So it was like a very planned project from the start, and you see this email chain. He's like, I don't have anyone following me right now, but I have these businesses, and I want to create this like social media character.
Right.
And I think within a year, he got to 1 million followers. So he was doing something right.
I don't know about right morally, but definitely doing something business savvy.
Sure. Yeah. So that's me. I'm fully steeped in the cult of Liver King. The 9 ancestral tenets are my religion.
I appreciate you sharing your weird internet things. We've all got one.
Yeah. Next, one of these days we'll discuss yours, which also religious themes.
Yes. Follow my white evangelical ladies.
Yeah. I think speaking of religion, we have another sort of corporate religion related article that we are going to discuss today, right?
Yeah, definitely. Lead us in.
All right. So we have here an article in the New York Times that was published yesterday about Elizabeth Koch, who's the daughter of Charles Koch, notably the billionaire family. I think they own like a chemical something. Anyway, they have $66 billion, which I think is the important point.
And they've invested in a lot of pharmaceuticals.
And a lot of libertarian ideology and conservative ideology and Republicans. So I think we can just kind of maybe start at the top and give our thoughts as we go. Or
yeah,
do you
let's start with the title.
Yes, the title is The Billionaire's Daughter Knows What You're Thinking, which is, I think, fairly ominous. And I will chance a guess that she probably has no idea what I'm thinking because
I think that's probably right.
We are just from two wildly different worlds.
Let's read the subtitle too because it's pretty sympathetic.
Okay. Yeah. Elizabeth Koch, the daughter of the right-wing political force, Charles Koch, is working to bridge societal divides. Sure, roll your eyes, but also, why not her?
I have to say, I did feel a little called out because I'm pretty sure I was starting to roll my eyes as soon as I read that. And I was like, all right, the author knows what's going on a little bit. I'm going to say if by the end of this article she's not critical of her family, then I think she's not the person for the job. So let's see.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start at the top, but we'll probably skip quite a bit of it just to kind of give a general overview of this. Even as a young girl, Elizabeth Koch was keenly aware of her family's extreme wealth. My beloved parents, they were so paranoid about raising spoiled pieces of, And so I heard about it a lot, and I could see how other people responded to us. I sensed it everywhere. I didn't get that it was about the family. I'm just seeing that it's about me. So I must be bad. And then she dedicated her life to one pursuit, to not be hated, is what she said.
So notably not to be good.
Yeah.
Or to try and change the world, just not to be liked.
No, yeah. Why would you try to be good when you could just control what other people think of you?
And not be hated.
Exactly. Yeah, you can just continue doing the same fucked up shit that you've been doing for forever. But as long as you can just control people's minds, then you don't have to feel bad about doing it. And that's really the important part. I think we can skip down a little bit into where it gets and talks a little bit about the company that she started. It's called Unlikely Collaborator. But the part that we're skipping is kind of just setting up that, introducing her and her kind of like woe is me sort of attitude to having grown up with this immense amount of privilege and feeling like people hated her. And then the author is saying like, I'm sure you're rolling your eyes by now. And buddy, I was too, until her publicist, Scott Rowe, reached out to me and said, why don't you write an article about Miss Koch?
And then the journalist felt a little bit better about it.
Yeah. So it says here, a publicist named Scott Rowe had called to propose an article on Miss Koch and her nonprofit organization, Unlikely Collaborators, which is all about self-investigation. According to its website, the organization is dedicated to the creation of provocative experiences that help you face who you think you are. The site adds, our experiences use a process of self-investigation that encompasses principles and practices from Eastern and Western thought, meditation, psychology, and neuroscience, designed to expand your understanding of self, others, and the whole damned world.
I don't think I caught that whole damned world last time I read this.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be edgy. It's
very
cool.
Encompassing.
It's reaching out to just like all the fucked up people in the world who just love to say damned and shit and fuck. I think it's not clear exactly what they do.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Just provocative experiences. I'm not really sure what this means at all, but maybe we'll find out as we go on. Anything on this paragraph?
Yeah, I think just this idea of like this idea that there is an innate you to get to know is sort of interesting, as opposed to like we are a compilation of our experiences and our beliefs, that there's some kind of stable self that is good that has to be uncovered. It's sort of interesting.
It's kind of like all these rich people have this like neuroses of just like, again, they do all this terrible stuff and then they want to feel it like they want to buy indulgences, right?
Right. No, you're right. It's really very much like the old Catholic system. Yeah.
They're like, what can I do to not feel bad or feel like
That's a good analogy.
Yeah. The problem is that they actually do have so much money that they can just project their psychotic neuroses and anxieties onto the rest of us.
Right.
And they're just like, again, it's saying like provocative experiences that help you face who you think you are. And it's like, who is this talking to other than her?
Right.
Like most people aren't like, who am I? Right.
I don't know. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I feel that way, but
yeah, of course. But like, I think we are also relatively privileged. Right?
Definitely not compared to this woman, but yes, compared to many people.
Not relative to her, but relative to a lot of people. I think we get to think about these things a little bit more. But your average person is just kind of like, damn, I'm just trying to survive. I want to fly under the radar at work. I just want to get home and eat with my family. Like, I don't know. People are out here just trying to survive.
I don't know. I think people have existential kind of questions at a lot of different points, but you're right. Certainly the idea to like be so obsessed with how others influence your self-image seems kind of like a privileged
and to
problem.
force others to partake in your
Right.
discovery of self is not something.
I love this idea of kind of rebranding meditation as purely self-help as opposed to like a disciplining of the soul and, you know, trying to become a better person. It's just all about like, how do you figure out who you are?
Yeah. Can I say I have thoughts on this too with regards to just like my experiences with therapy.
Yeah.
Is very much like a little self-helpy in a way that I just didn't really like, where it was just, it wasn't a, I guess like you said, like a very taming of your own self and ego or anything like that.
It's a tool. It's a very practical tool, but I think you're right. It's not meant to, it's also very much from your own narrative, which is tricky, right? So I saw a really great tweet the other day that was something along the lines of, I will not pay my therapist $200 and leave out 80% of the story. And I think it's a good reminder because it's easy to kind of show yourself in a positive light.
Not me. I tried to show myself in a very critical light, and
you
then
probably
I feel
overdid it.
I feel like throughout therapy, it was just trying to get me to be like, well, you shouldn't feel bad about anything that you've done because you did it for a reason, and I'm just like, no, I don't know if that's true. I kind of wanted the therapist to be like, yo, you stupid piece of shit.
I don't know if that's an acceptable therapeutic method. Something that's been helpful for
to
me. It's a little bit of like a tangent, but is the idea that like your actions can be wrong, but that really overly beating yourself up mentally just creates more bad action.
Yeah.
But I definitely appreciate a therapist who can say, yeah, that wasn't an ideal way that you reacted in that situation.
Yeah.
Because I know you're just bullshitting me if you say, no, everything you do is perfect. You know, all of your reactions are reasonable. It's definitely not the case.
Yeah. Like, I think this woman actually started out with the right idea when she was young, where she felt like she was bad.
Because your family
and
had
like
so much
being
money.
hypercritical. Like, I think that's just like that's the approach you have to grow up with.
I don't agree with that. I think that when you feel bad, it kind of leads to shame. That is not good.
Yeah, people should have shame.
Not as children.
Fair enough. All right.
Let's skip down to unlikely collaborators. Here, should I read this paragraph?
Yeah, go for it.
Unlikely collaborators occupies a sunny loft in Santa Monica, California, a community once described as, quote, where liberal ideology meets the sea, end quote.
Mm-hmm.
On the afternoon I visited, candles flickered here and there. Someone had put out what looked like 20 pounds of charcuterie. That sounds nice. I would visit just for that.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Gregorian, the nonprofit's president, was tucked into a stylish chair near Zach Gorin, a former investment banker and private equity investor, who is Miss Koch's finance and operations chief.
I'm pretty sure it's Coke.
I always say Koch by accident. I can't believe I did it while I was reading this.
I think that's
but I think
probably
you're right that it's Coke.
It's
she probably
possible that's what her bullies called her, and that's why she's having all these anxious thoughts.
The chances of her ever hearing this, practically impossible. But I'm sorry if I triggered you, Miss Koch.
Yeah. I love that in one sentence it says they put out 20 pounds of charcuterie, and in the next it's like, yeah, this is a non-profit.
Right. This is where liberal ideology meets the sea.
Which sounds like a terrible place.
Really? I mean, I would love to chill by the water and eat charcuterie.
Where liberal ideology meets the sea?
I mean, if I get 20 pounds of charcuterie, some good testicles.
What if we kissed where liberal ideology meets the sea?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I love the mention of a nonprofit in one sentence, and then the next is charcuterie and investment bankers and private equity investors. So you can tell that she's really palling around with the right people for her goal to really change the world here. Anything else there?
No, I'm just thinking about the charcuterie still.
Mm-hmm. I really like this next paragraph, actually. So we settled into the conference room. I expected her to be guarded, in keeping with her father's approach to the news media. Instead, she spoke excitedly for nearly 2 hours, telling me about her circuitous path to middle age, salting her sentences with profanity, and referring to herself as a privileged, pasty white girl from the Midwest. She talked about exploring her pain holes with a therapist and going on 2-week silent retreats. She insisted that she was apolitical.
The fact that there was
pain hole?
Well, the first great question, what is a pain hole? I don't know. I think I'm thinking too literally. That's my immediate reaction, but I'm guessing that's not what she meant.
Yeah, I don't. Again, one thing that I'm finding in this piece actually is that she's essentially just creating synonyms for things that already exist, things that are well defined. And I think just calling them something else so
You're
that
right.
I don't know
Like
if she
this
can
could-
like trademark.
Yeah.
But pain hole, you could just say exploring traumas. It doesn't have, pain hole is just one, clunky, two, I think a little too sexual.
Definitely.
But I'm glad she could go on 2-week retreats and think on her pain hole.
I think the other big killer here is that she's apolitical. I mean, that's the obvious thing that the journalist has no follow-up about, just kind of puts it out there and lets it stay.
Do you believe that? What would you have asked if
think
she
I would
told
just
you
say,
she
I
was
mean,
apolitical?
Yeah, like how could you come from the family that you come from? I mean, really, no one is apolitical, but especially given your father's pursuits.
But don't you think if someone had the luxury of being apolitical, it's the failed daughter of a billionaire?
Definitely still a political stance, whether or not they see it that way.
Really?
Yeah.
It just seems like a luxury to be like, well, it doesn't really matter what happens in politics. Like, we're just going to stay in power.
Right. But your chance, like your decision to sit on millions of dollars and start a bullshit nonprofit is definitely political.
Oh, it has political reverberations.
Right.
But she herself. Yeah. No, it's true. It's, yeah. All right. Where to next?
Let's get to the exciting part.
Okay. Hold on.
So mostly Miss Koch,
Ooh.
make sure I get that correct, wanted to explain something called the Perception Box, a term she trademarked in 2021.
Trademark. There we go. That's it.
Yeah. So we don't have to read as much here. I think we can just kind of talk about this. She has this idea.
What is the perception box?
So that's the question. It's something about like a mental box that distorts our perception of everything. And I think the goal
okay.
of Unlikely Collaborators is to get outside of your perception box. How
Okay.
you do that and why we need the term perception box.
Instead of bias.
Right. Bias. Well, I don't think she even wants to get outside of bias. I think she wants you to be able to move beyond other people's perceptions of you, which honestly, I think other people's perceptions of you, probably a healthy thing to be kind of aware of and somewhat checked by.
Yeah, this is it. It's just like you're trying to eliminate any negative thought about you in the world.
Influencing yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. Like the final frontier of like economic and financial domination or colonization is the person's mind itself. And you need to just like stake out a claim for like what they are and are not allowed to think about you.
Do you think, I will say to her credit, I don't think she's trying to, I think she knows that she can't control other people's thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I think what she's trying to do though, which is still dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
is make it so that you aren't influenced by other people's perceptions of you.
Yeah.
So, if someone says, hey, you seem like a failed daughter, that's not going to get into her perception box because she's really fortified it.
That's great. So then why are you doing any of this? If it doesn't bother you, then why the fuck are you just...
Because she wants
It
to give other
clearly is
people
on some
that
level.
she wants to give other people that gift. She wants to help other people fortify their perception boxes.
On some level, it feels like she's more so saying like, hey, I don't care what anyone thinks about me. And she just wants to deliver that message.
Billions of
I've
dollars to
invested
prove it.
hundreds
Yeah.
of millions of dollars. I have a note here that I think a perception box is, if anyone can create a perception box, it's her. If anyone gets to shift the zeitgeist in a way that is truly meaningful, it's people like her who have tons of money, and the Kochs have spent billions of dollars to actually change what people think about their bullshit concept of like liberty and economic freedom and whether or not pollution exists, or just like so many different things.
I didn't think about that, but you're right. She kind of comes from a family legacy, I guess, of trying to alter perception boxes.
Very overtly.
I also hate myself for just non-ironically using the term perception box, but yeah,
Right, yeah. That's soon you're going to have to pay her because it is trademarked.
that's true.
It's wild. Like, I get the point that it's not about her saying she cares about what these people think, but like at the same time, this project is set up and it's discussed in such a way that it seems very much inspired by her being trapped in her own perception box.
Right. Also, just a complete lack of details on what these experiences are that are going to help. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know if we ever get to that.
If we jump down a little bit, Unlikely Collaborators intends to help people become aware of their perception boxes through workshops, lectures, and summits. So I guess that's a little bit of the how.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Koch led a workshop for the Los Angeles chapter of the Red Cross. Oh dear. And most recently, she's been offering a workshop titled What I Think You Think About Me. That's the best way, I think, to let people know that you don't care what they think.
Right.
If you give a workshop on what they think.
Yeah, exactly. And she's probably coming out, I mean, speculating at this point, being like, I bet you think I'm a rich piece of shit, just spoiled. Well, I'm here to tell you I'm not. And I've spent $100 million to do so.
One concrete thing that it seems that Miss Koch is doing is donating to other organizations.
Mm-hmm.
There's the SIY Global, which seems kind of sketchy. It's like a mindfulness and emotional intelligence training firm, which I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
But then she mentions that Unlikely Collaborators is donating to the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, which I know nothing about, but I definitely think that there should be more research into thinking about how psychedelics could help with mental health.
Yeah.
But pretty quickly after that paragraph, she pivots back to the perception box and says that's where it begins and ends, and kind of stops talking about donating.
We live and die by the perception box.
Yeah. What's your thought on psychedelics and mental health?
It worries me a little bit. I thought about maybe trying to see if I could like microdose any of these substances, because like I think I deal with depression quite a bit and just like chronic pain and things like that, and I got really close to trying it.
Really? For which one?
To microdose shrooms.
That's right. I forgot that.
Yeah. And then
we had a bad trip on weed, and I think that made you nervous.
Yeah. The times that I've smoked weed, like I just like have rarely had a good experience, and it's not really something I like to do anymore. And it's also something that I think I just like discovered a little too late in life.
Or it might just not be your thing, which is fair.
It's not my thing. Yeah. I think I always go back to, I know not everyone agrees with this standpoint, but the reason I'm depressed and the reason that sometimes I can't manage my chronic pain is because of the nature of work life and just the world that we live in, just being fundamentally incompatible with what I believe to be good and honors like your innate humanity. And I think as long as that's true, they're taking a drug to kind of just like trick myself into being happy. Again, I'm just speaking, this is my experience and what I believe would be true for me. I just feel like that's not really going to help me. It's kind of like putting a Band-Aid over something. But obviously, like, I say that fully believing and meaning that, if people are depressed and these things help them feel better, like they should do it if they feel it's right for them.
Right. And there's been times where you have taken medication because I felt like it was necessary.
Sure.
So obviously if someone's at like a critical breaking point,
yes,
we would say absolutely take medication.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
there is the kind of irony of taking medication just to be a more fully functioning worker and not dealing with like larger structural issues that make it hard to be happy.
Yeah. What about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I didn't expect it to go in that direction. Or I didn't really know that your feelings about medication were the same for psychedelics, but that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I use Delta 8 to sleep, and I find that very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I tried shrooms once, and I actually did work through some shit. Like, there is something to it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it could have. I think for me, once was enough. And there's other avenues like therapy and, friendships, which I can explore things through. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I have friends who are on the West Coast and Oregon and California, and I think it's great that there are states that are trying to think about therapeutic methods with psychedelics. I think there's a lot of danger in taking psychedelics on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there definitely should be more research into it. I'll tell you what I would not do is go to a perception box themed workshop led by this woman.
You would take shrooms before that.
I would take poison before that.
I don't know about poison, but I would definitely take shrooms again before going to a perception box workshop.
Is there anything else you want to say on this? I mean, she's over here talking about her perception box, her pain hole, all very sexual.
No, I think we can just let the pain hole sit there.
There is part of it where she's talking about wanting to please her father, which is... I don't know.
There's one line we have to read, actually. Let me find
it.
Where the journalist, this woman is saying, "Who are you still trying to please and who are you still rebelling against?" She asked me, now firmly in teacher-student mode. "Probably daddy. I said, almost in a whisper.
Okay, but if you're over the age of, I'm going to say 9, maybe 10 if you grew up in like New York. Don't say daddy.
Wait, why 10 if you grew up in New York?
Because I feel like you grew up a lot faster in the South. That's my feeling.
You think you grew up faster in the South?
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't think so.
Yo, people are married by like the time they're 20.
That does not mean that they're grown up.
Oh, they are grown up faster.
No, they are just getting
All right,
married
we're going to have a
young.
separate episode on this. This is clearly one of us grew up in the North. The other one grew up in the South.
Clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But circling back,
I think life hits you harder. You deal with more shit. I mean, actually, now that I'm saying this, I feel like don't actually agree with what I'm saying. You actually do deal with a lot more shit in the city.
I think it's all about your circumstances wherever you are geographically. But I think anywhere that you are, probably daddy, a real sketchy line.
Certainly by the time you're 13.
Don't say daddy.
Don't say daddy.
What would you do if I really wanted to call you daddy
Oh
in
my
like
God,
a particular context?
we're not going down that road. That's first of all, I'm cutting this out.
Don't cut it out. It's a good question.
It's not a good question.
Wow.
It's very perturbing.
Wow. All right. Let's get back to it.
Yeah. My perception box
does not like being called daddy.
Yeah. Am I using perception box correctly?
Yes. We now have the authority after analyzing this article for an hour to say perception box however we would like.
Yeah.
We can give this training.
Okay.
So she also did MDMA therapy. Mm-hmm. And she says, quote, when I did my own MDMA therapy, there were Looney Tunes characters coming out of my body. The witch, Sylvester, that Viking chick who sings the opera. When I was little,
isn't that Bugs Bunny dressed as a Viking chick?
What?
Isn't that Bugs Bunny dressed as a Viking chick just from that Looney Tunes?
Maybe. Yeah.
That's how I remember. Anyway, sorry.
I don't remember that person. Mm-hmm. When I was little and forming my perception box, I sucked them in somehow.
Ugh.
And then the journalist says, this is the offspring of Charles Koch. I like that the journalist is reading this as such a redeeming anecdote. That like this woman being on MDMA and seeing Looney Tunes characters is so profound.
I'm not a trained psychologist, but it tells me that
she's a little basic.
She's a little basic.
Yeah.
Also, her head is just filled with cartoons.
Yeah. Those are her innermost demons.
Yeah.
The Viking chick.
This is the trauma that she's working through, right? Yeah, I love that she's just like kind of making it seem like she's had this like tough, traumatic life full of like wrought by angst and all this stuff, and then she finally opens up her perception box and it's fucking Looney Tunes just coming.
Looney Tunes in Kansas. Yeah, that's the deep trauma.
Yeah.
There's also this line, she's talking more about kind of how she grew up and how it formed who she is. And she says, quote, it's not like growing up in New York City where a lot of people are wealthy, end quote. We were very different in Wichita. I had so much fear that people would hate me. As someone who grew up in New York, a couple things that irritates me about this. One, the idea that everyone in New York City is wealthy. I mean, I get it. There are more wealthy people in New York City.
Sure.
But she still should have felt bad about herself growing up in New York.
Yeah.
And two, just that it was like particularly difficult for her to grow up in an area where there weren't other wealthy people.
I'm gonna also just call bullshit on that. There's nowhere that she would have grown up that there weren't wealthy people.
Definitely.
Like when you're that wealthy, anywhere you go, like what is she just like fucking knocking elbows with like janitors and like bus drivers and shit? Like no.
Also,
the
when you're
poorest
that wealthy,
people she's seen are probably her drivers.
Definitely. And when you're that wealthy, also, you're not just spending your time in Wichita. You're definitely, you know, going to fancy vacations and resorts. I mean, yeah.
I will say, I don't know. How old is she?
She's like in her 50s. She's not young.
She looks great.
She does look great. I mean, money buys. Hair
like
is immaculate.
Looking at the picture of her right now, she looks maybe like she's in her late 30s or early 40s.
Yeah, whatever work was done on her face, they did a good job.
So
very tasteful.
If that does anything for her perception box,
she deserves it. Yeah, well done work.
It's very tasteful.
Should we wrap it up here to the kind of last section under No Stranger to Division?
Yeah, let's do that.
It is possible that Miss Koch will turn unlikely collaborators and her perception box into a success. But she will never escape the Koch box. Some people will always want something from her that she's either uninterested or unwilling to give. Allyship in a fight against her father's politics, in particular his opposition to climate change laws. So basically kind of just saying She will still always be a Koch. And I think the implication here is like that's kind of hard for her, right? But she's not going to say anything to counter her family.
Right. I feel like healing her pain hole and altering her perception box and controlling it is going to be harder. As people on the coast begin to drown and their homes begin to burn, and they start to look to the Koch family and say, you did this, we hate you, I think it's gonna be real hard for her.
In all seriousness, no, you're right. I mean, they control so much through different channels. They do control so much of the media and so much of like the information that they may never get blamed for that kind of stuff the way they should be.
No, because she's gonna make sure to go around the country and make sure that people don't think anything bad about her or her family. Yeah.
Right, even as their like floods are increasing. Yeah. And then it ends with this kind of editor's note that an earlier version of this article referred incompletely to this doctor who endorsed Elizabeth Koch's work, and that the doctor has in fact received funding for her lab from unlikely collaborators.
And is now a paid advisor.
Right.
Yeah. And this doctor had, I think, if I'm not mistaken, had said that, hey, I think she's on to something with this whole perception box thing.
That was definitely the gist of it.
Great work, Elizabeth. We're all very proud of you. We hope very soon you can have your pain hole surgically removed or filled, or
I think filled.
Filled. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Keep you in our perception boxes. Anything else?
No, I mean, this was an interesting piece. I can't believe that shit like this gets published. It's kind of incredible.
We had another piece that we were going to connect this to. Do you want to go through that? We'll probably have to edit quite a bit of this.
Yeah.
Just on the subject of corporate spirituality.
That was a really great connection that you made. I didn't think of that off the bat, but there's this article that came out in 2020, August 28th, 2020, about this new kind of burgeoning field of spiritual advisors. And so essentially they are a lot of div school grads like myself from Harvard Divinity specifically,
HDS,
where I went, HDS. And I have to say,
according to King of the Hill, surgically ordained female ministers in the basement of the Harvard Divinity School.
That's a really great, I love King of the Hill. So first of all, there are folks from HDS who go into do a lot of good work, but there are a lot of us who have decided that our calling, our spiritual calling, is to try and make the corporate workplace more fulfilling spiritually, which sounds like a contradiction in terms, and it sort of is.
Yeah, I find the workplace to be spiritually ameliorating, personally.
I think you are also at the other extreme in that your spirit is just like crushed by your workplace.
I'm going for corporate atheism.
Yes.
Yeah,
definitely. That's you. I find a lot of benefit in my work. But it also comes with a lot of frustrations. University bureaucracy is not a joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy who started this kind of spiritual consultancy is the same person who was leading a kind of seminar on how to read the Harry Potter texts as religious texts.
Oh, interesting.
Which he actually does some interesting work. I mean, that was kind of an interesting project. But then he kind of took it and made a buck off of it. And so a lot of resonance with this article for sure in terms of using spirituality and spiritual-esque practices, but making them devoid of any kind of higher connection and just kind of making it a way to get through the day easier.
Why do you think it's the very people who in every aspect of life where it matters or it could exist, the people who have killed God are trying to bring some sort of spirituality into the places where God is definitely not?
First of all, astaghfirullah. No one's killed God. This is not a pro-Nietzsche household. I think because in spite of the kind of like blank, spiritually void corporate workplace, there's this understanding that people are unhappy. And there's an idea that they have to be happy enough to work more efficiently.
Right.
And so, it's just kind of a practical thing that if they felt more connected somehow to the workplace, that it would maybe function better.
But do you think people who have to do the work are going to go for that?
I think the workplace is hard because I think that especially like not even us, but Gen Z has been awesome in terms of setting boundaries, right? The whole like quiet quitting thing, which is bullshit, but the idea behind
that's not even boundaries setting. It's just doing
basic.
Your job.
Yeah. But they've been really good about like, my work is not my life.
Yeah.
But I think that there's also a kind of desire. I mean, that article about the spiritual consulting also talks about soul cycle. And I think that there is this kind of desire to kind of find spirituality through corporations, even not just the workplace. And I think there's still something a little bit sad about that. But people need community, and so I can't really judge them for trying to find it where they can.
Yeah, I don't think these places are necessarily bad, but I do agree that there's a rise of communities that you have to pay into.
Right.
And it's very self-selecting, and you're able to go about life only interacting with people who are more or less exactly like you. And I think there is a beauty in community that you don't get to 100% choose, right? You just kind of take it as it is, and you say, I have to figure out how to be a part of it and not just
perfectly
change
it.
Yeah, you're not going to change it to your whim. Like,
right.
That's just a bad way to go about life, and to just kind of cut people out of the margins of your life, I feel like is a very bad way to go, and just very insulating and ultimately very lonely because it limits your own experience. So I don't know. Like it is very empty. It seems like a very empty existence.
I think that institutional religious spaces can be really difficult. At least I've never been a part of a mosque community, and to be fair, I haven't really tried.
Yeah.
But there was something that was helpful, and there still is, I think, something that's helpful for people who are a part of those communities, just that they are built into your schedule, right? Like every Friday you go to Jummah if you're Christian, every Sunday you go to church. And there's a kind of having to contend with the difficult parts of being in community that you just have to deal with, that you don't have to when you're paying for like a soul cycle class.
Yeah. I do also think that like the religious communities are not necessarily exempt from this, right? Like you can find class stratification at different masjids and
absolutely. And I mean tons of like race issues.
Yeah,
for
sure.
sure. But I guess just like the idealized form of that like everyone in your neighborhood, which as I'm saying it, you're totally right. I mean, mosques are totally divided on class lines, so it's not as if everyone's coming together, across different boundaries. But the idea of that is a beautiful one.
Yeah.
That taking a kind of class or even trying to find a sense of connection to the divine or to other people through your corporation is not even pretending that that's part of the pursuit, right?
Right. Like I think the pursuit should be one that brings in more people.
Yeah.
Rather than fewer.
And I'll just say, I mean, you really inspired me in this. Just even though I love my job and I love teaching students and I love writing, really separating my sense of self from the institution that I work for has been excellent for my mental health. And I think it's so important to find community outside of work. At least it has been for me. It's made me feel a lot more fulfilled.
No, it's good. I feel like I've never gotten any fulfillment from having a job. It's definitely brought me some security financially. But I think I told you this kind of when we first met, right? Like even I remember thinking in like 4th grade when we were talking about careers and people were just like, what do you want to do? And I was just sitting there and I was like, I don't know. I kind of don't want to do anything.
But the thing is, like, you want to do so much. You just don't want to be in tech. Yeah.
There's a lot that I like to do, like things that I find interesting and fulfilling. But when I was posed with the question of like, what job do you want so you can afford food and a house? I was just like, why do I have to do a job for food and a house?
Right. And then there's that kind of point that what do you want to do and what do you want to do to make money are obviously different questions, but we kind of train children to think it's the same question.
Yeah, and that was always very confusing because I was just like, well, what if people can't work?
Right.
Like, what if you're disabled? What about, do you just not eat? Like, these are just like things I was just like...
You're a little baby Marxist.
I was figuring it out, and then I learned the logic of capitalism through my very subpar schooling, and I feel like now I'm just undoing that. I'm unlearning.
What do we rate this episode?
I give this one a 6.5. What do you think?
I give it...
I think people are gonna love the Liver King content.
That's not
I think we've probably gained a few followers for Liver King, who I think is a prophet of our times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the sprawling nature. I had a good time.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna have a lot of edits to make. But yeah, I think overall it was fine. We're at probably, I don't know what the time is here. Probably an hour 15 or something. So I'll cut it down to 40. Okay, bye.